Hi, this is Straight Up Mortgage with Madi, and today we are going to talk about calculating income. We're going to start off a little slow and do more easier income calculations, salary employees, those that are paid a fixed salary or those that are paid hourly. As a processor, these are some of the basic things that we should know how to do, right? But sometimes what I've noticed, especially in my processing journey, is that uh, many companies don't necessarily teach you, and depending upon how you got into the industry, you could have never got this lesson. So I just want to put this out here to help some of my processors. That way, you're not just relying on the calculation that the loan officer put on your application, and also, so you are knowing and understanding, how these income calculations are coming about, and you can do it yourself, and you have that confidence when you're sending your file to underwriting, because that's very important, right? So you can see my screen here. This is the first kind of pay stub that we are going to look at. So the first thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at a pay stub, yeah, you want to see that your borrower's name is the same as the one on the file, because it does happen, right? Sometimes we might upload the wrong document to the wrong file, etc. Um, the other thing you want to do is look at your W-2 and match it up, make sure that those two match. I mean, if they don't match and you submit it to underwriting that way, underwriting is most likely going to condition for an explanation as to why the two companies are different. But that's a whole nother, story. We're here about income calculation. You want to look at the pay date, right? Because we want to make sure that we have a pay stub that is within the time frame that is required. So, for instance, if our application date is September the 1st, we need a pay stub that is, within that time. So, within that time is meaning at least within 60 days to that September 1st. So, 910 is perfect. It's the most recent pay stub. You just want to make sure that you don't have any super stale pay stubs in your file, or else underwriting is going to what? They're going to suspend your file. They're going to be like, why is the application date on this application 9/1, but we have pay stubs from, I don't know, April? So pay attention to that as well. But when it comes to calculating income, the first thing I want to know is the frequency that my borrower is paid. So this particular pay stub for Blue Ivy, the pay frequency is actually indicated here as weekly. So again, the pay frequency is listed here as weekly. Um, Most pay stubs do not tell you the pay frequency. Okay. So for my other examples, I'm not going to tell you, because that's something that, you really do need to know how to figure out as a processor. But weekly, it's going to be easy because it just shows the start date, and it's 5 days. That's a week, a work week, right? And the pay date is at the end of that first week. So here, the pay frequency is weekly. It's showing us the net pay. I've seen processors make this mistake. We are always using the gross pay. We are never using the net pay when we're calculating income. Even like when we have things like untaxable income, like Social Security, disability, things of that nature, we can even gross it up just because those types of incomes are not taxable. So we can gross it up, meaning adding about 25%. So that way they have some cushion, as these W 2 employees have with the taxes. So we're using the gross amount. Again, we are not using the net. So then I want to come here and see how my borrower is paid. So in this case, this is a salaried borrower. They are making 1,500 gross every week. After taxes is what's coming up to that 900 and change that we saw up top. And then we have the year to date. So the year to date is another very, very important factor that you want to pay attention to as well. Because for instance, okay, we see that this salary is 1500. Do we know how to calculate uh, this figure to get our monthly income? I'll pull up a calculator, but I'm just going to say this vocally and maybe put something on the screen. But when calculating a weekly income, you're going to do the amount that they get paid per week, especially in this case since they're salaried. So it's going to be $1,500 times 52, since that's 52 weeks in a year. And then you're going to divide that by 12, which is 12 months. So again, in this case, since it's salary, you're going to do this 1,500 times 52, which stands for the 52 weeks that we have in a year. Then we're going to divide that by 12, and that is going to give you the monthly income for this particular borrower. So here's a pretty standard income calculation worksheet. I've worked at so many companies, and many of them utilize this same exact income calculation worksheet. So, using the example, we're going to say our borrower's name is Blue Ivy, right? The employer, that was Show Off Inc. Loan number, blah, 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 blue, blue, blah, blah. And the date is automated from today. So again, this was a borrower that is getting paid weekly, salary $1,500 a week. So we're going to come here in the salary section, and within here, we're going to put in 1,500. Now, I told you this calculation because honestly, as a processor, you should have this committed to memory. Um, it's very important. Even though you have this income calculation worksheet, again, not every company has it, but you can keep it, for yourself to utilize when you are transitioning from one company to the next. However, these are just like the fundamentals, the basics that we should just know off the top of our heads. I've actually been asked this question a couple times while in interviews. How do you calculate income for someone that's paid weekly? How do you calculate income for someone that's paid bi-weekly, that's paid, bi-monthly or semi-monthly, twice a month, right? So just knowing it like this, it it's best. So I'm tabbing out, and it's calculating this income for me. So this is what we're going to use for the income. Because again, they are salary, and we are going to collect maybe a couple more pay stubs if DU requires it. But as long as it's showing the salary as 1,500 every single week, we can utilize this income amount. Now, the other thing that we want to do is check out the year to date on the pay stub. Okay, so if you remember here, the salary information, and it's shown here that the year to date amount is 55,500. We also want to see that, I'm just going to go back up. Let me So this pay date ends at 9/10. So basically, you want to calculate the year to date and figure out your average that the borrower has been making. So when we put it in the calculator, it shows that this borrower is making approximately $6,500 each month, right? Now, just to make sure that this is in alignment, we want to gross it, or we want to average it, excuse me, over the year. So we're going to say 55,500 divided by, this is like 8 months, 8 point. So when I'm doing this math, I'm basically taking, like, for instance, September has 30 days. I'm going to do 10 divided by 30. Is it 30 divided by 10? 10 divided by 30. And 10 divided by 30 is 0.33. So we're going to divide that 55,500 by a full 8 months, right? Because we went through the whole of August, but we're not through the whole of September yet. So it's 8 point X. Like if this was the 15th, I would just say divided by 8.5, right? Because it's going to be exactly half, but it's not. So we want to be as exact or as approximate as we can be. So we're going to take this 10th day and divide it by the 30 days that's within the month, and that's going to give us 0.33. So we're going to divide that by 8.33. Okay, so now we're back to our income calculator. Remember, we are going to calculate the year to date to see if it's in alignment with this $6,500 a month that we calculated here. So it says year to date salary, and that was 55,500. Remember, the figure that we're going to use is 8.33, and that's because that pay stub is basically showing us how much they've made from the beginning of the year to September 10th. And so that's a full 8 months, right? January through August. And now we're 10 days into September. And we're taking that 10 days and dividing it by the full 30 days that's within the month, which gives us that 0.33. So 8.33. And we have here $6,662.67. So this is fantastic. That means that we are in we're going on the right track this year to make exactly the amount of money that the borrower is telling us. So you notice that this is a little bit more than this, and that's okay. You know, the borrower could have possibly done some sort of overtime or, gotten a little bit extra money or something of that nature, which is totally good. We're just going to use the conservative amount of $6,500. All right, so for our next example, as I stated before, I blocked out the pay frequency, right? Or I didn't indicate what that pay frequency is. So now it's up to us to figure it out. So when I want to do that, I take a look at my dates. In this case, my start date is 9/1 and it ends 9/15, and they are getting paid on the 1st of October. Whenever I see 9/1, 9/15, for the most part, that's gonna indicate that they get paid twice a month. So they get paid either the 1st and the 15th, or the 15th and the 30th. That's called semi-monthly, twice a month, bi-monthly. So it's not bi-weekly, because I've seen people see this and say, oh, okay, this person gets paid bi-weekly. They do not. They get paid twice a month. And if they have a second pay stub, you can check again to see, okay, they were paid the 1st or they paid the 15th, in the other check. Or, where they paid the 15th and the 30th in the other check. So that's an indicator. And then another indicator, I don't have it here because I have this example set as a salaried borrower as well. But you know how, for instance, a person that gets paid bi-weekly, they work 80 hours. Well, a person that's paid bi-monthly or twice a month, they work 96 hours in a pay period. So that's another giveaway. You look at the start date and the end date, and if they have the hours listed, if it's like 96 hours, then you know that, okay, this is definitely a person that gets paid twice a month. So again, these are fundamentals and something that you really should know as a processor, because you're calculating income and you want to make sure that you have the right figures, that your DTI is accurate, etc., etc. So again, twice a month, and our salary is $3,000. So they're getting paid $3,000 twice a month. Okay, I'm just gonna delete this out. So we said that he gets paid $3,000. Oh, look what I put. I put it under bi-weekly. Bum, bum, bum. All right. Again, we're doing semi-monthly. Um, so you see here the calculation for semi-monthly. You take that gross amount of their pay stub, you multiply that by 24 and divide it by 12. Honestly, I never do 24 and divide it by 12. I just divide it by 2 because they get paid twice a month. So I don't need to do the whole 24 then divide it by 12. I can just multiply it by 2 and it's going to give me the same figure. Let's just say the year to date is the same, 8.33, you know, whatever. But hopefully, you guys get the understanding of the year to date. I can give another example because sometimes, let's say, for instance, last year, right? I just want to put this in here. Last year, the pandemic, some people were furloughed. Some people, they weren't working for maybe a couple weeks, a couple months until their company figured out what it was that they were going to do as far as the pandemic is concerned. So let's say if that happened, you weren't getting income for a month. So now you're down to 49,000 in a year to date. And you see that's lower, not substantially lower. So sorry for my ghetto example. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this is something that would raise concern. And when this comes up, sometimes if you're more of an inexperienced processor, you're not going to know to calculate this year to date and you're not going to know to ask the right questions. But then when underwriting gets the file, they're going to calculate this year to date to see if we're on track to make what the borrower says that they make per year. So in this case, if the borrower tells us that they make 6K and we calculate the pay stub and it comes out as 6K, but then we do the math on the year to date and we get 4,800, we need to figure out what happened. Where's the gap? Sometimes again it's that a borrower didn't work, maybe they were on maternity leave, disability, some kind of leave. Other times it's like maybe they got a raise, right? Maybe that's how much they used to make. However, now they got this raise, so now they're making more. So that would just need some sort of letter of explanation or a written verification from the employer explaining that this person got a raise or that this person was on leave. And it's underwriter discretion as to how we want to go from that, but it should be fine. Okay, so for my last example, again, we have a borrower that is a W 2 employee. So the first thing I want to do, like I stated before, is find out how this borrower is paid. So what is their pay frequency? And how I'm going to do that is primarily taking a look at the start and end date as far as the pay period is concerned. So here we see 9/13/2021 to 9/24/2021. Now, really quick, if you take a look at your calendar, if you pull up your calendar, you'll be able to see that this starts on, I believe, a Monday, the 13th, and it ends this 24th is that following Friday, which is covering a period of 2 weeks. So 2 work weeks. So 9/13 to 9/24. So that is going to let me know again that this is a person that is paid bi-weekly and not bi-monthly, which our last example showed. So this isn't showing me from the 1st to the 15th or the 15th to the 30th. It's showing me a period of 2 weeks or 2 work weeks. And then again, a secondary way of making sure of that is if our borrower is paid hourly, when a person is paid hourly and they are paid, bi-weekly, that means that they make what, or they work what, they work 80 hours a week, which is what we show here. This borrower is getting paid at a rate of 37.50 at 80 hours a week. If we were to ask for a secondary pay stub or a pay stub that's right before this one. We just want to make sure that they are, again, working that regular 80 hours. Sometimes, when you are reviewing pay stubs, it might be like 80 hours here, 85 hours there. So there's a couple ways of, kind of double checking. I'm going to pull up our calculator so that way, we can see the different ways that we can calculate this income. So again, this borrower is paid $37.50 an hour. At 80 hours, that would make it $3,000 that this particular borrower is making every 2 weeks. We could utilize the salary section, if we know that our borrower is just, clocking that 40 hours every week, clocking those consistent 80 hours every 2 weeks. You could plug it here and, as bi-weekly, putting that $3,000. And again, it's 26 divided by 12. So there's 26 bi-weekly pay periods in a year, and then it's dividing it by 12 to get you a monthly figure. Now, the other option is to utilize this hourly section. So if we notice, or if we know that our borrower makes $37.50 per hour and they work 40 hours per week, we can plug this information in here, and it would be, the 6,500. Now the goal is to always utilize the most conservative number. So let's just say, for some reason it was showing that the borrower made, I don't know, 3,100 or 3,200 on their pay stub. But if we have a VOE or something, or if we know that our borrower is a regular 40-hour a week, 80-hour pay period borrower, even though maybe their pay stub is showing a little more from time to time, we always want to use the most conservative and consistent number. So tried and true, he gets paid $37.50 per hour. Tried and true, 40 hours a week. We're going to utilize this most conservative number. So this is how you utilize this income calculation worksheet. Again, you can cross-reference that year to date to make sure that that borrower is in alignment to make what he told us that he makes per year, or she. Let's not be sexist here. Really quick, let's say your borrower has overtime on their pay stub. In order for us to utilize that overtime, we normally will want to see that the borrower has 2 years history of that overtime amount. So you can use this year to date to calculate how much the borrower has made in a year, but then you can also put in last year's overtime amount. And sometimes we might need a year past that, so we can enter that in as well. And then we can utilize, how it says year to date plus 1 year average, year to date plus 2 year average to get the amount. I don't have an example for that, right now as far as overtime or bonus or commission is concerned. However, if this is information that you would like to see, just let me know in the comment section. I'll be sure to do more videos. I also I'm going to create a video about calculating Schedule C income and maybe some rental income also. Schedule C income, it sounds like it's so difficult, but it really isn't. When you get to more S corps, those types of returns, it can get a bit confusing, but which we can still go over. But I will start out and I'll do a video on Schedule C income. But again, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what it is that you want to see, what it is that you need help with. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you can now calculate your borrower's income, their salary income, their W income more confidently. You can have a better understanding as to where your LO or your underwriter is getting their calculations from, and it'll also make you a better and more confident processor. So thank you for watching the video. Straight Up Mortgage with Madi. I'll see you on the next one.